Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time, this moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Good evening, everybody. We're back.
We're back.
Is back. Look, we are ready for a fantastic show tonight. But firstly, boys, how are we? Daz, Mark?
Not too bad. Not too bad, Pete. Anyone? I've been inundated with questions about my garden. I've been trying to tackle the moss, putting some stuff down to kill off that moss and get rid of it. But yeah, apart from that, I'm all good. All good.
And Mark, you've been in a bit of traffic tonight, haven't you?
Yeah, eldest lad is rugby training on a Tuesday and Thursday, getting to the back end of the season. So they've got a league semi-final on Sunday. So I've got about a 300-mile round trip to bring him to that. But a tough game coming up. So that's kind of been taking up everything. And then as most people know, I'm only really back from COVID. I'm still struggling a little bit at times. But yeah, kind of like Daz, tackle the garden and stuff yesterday evening. And
my violin, Martin.
Exactly, yeah. Enjoying some nice weather out there at the minute. So yeah, good, Pete. Good to be back though. Missed the chat and the stuff that we do. So yeah, bring it on. Looking forward to a good show, mate.
Definitely. And look, we at Loaded, we always like to bring everybody together and bring different opinions, different sides of the coin. And, you know, I've personally been really excited to bring our guest on tonight, someone different, different ideas, different opinions about our club. And he's making his debut on Loaded Mag. So look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's get him in. Senior editor at the Shields Gazette, Dominic Scurr. So welcome in.
Good evening, lads. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, mate. Hopefully you have as good a debut as some of the lads in black and white recently. So yeah, welcome.
There's a lot of pressure, yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
Just a bit. Might as well put you in the cosh already. But yeah, look, Dom, welcome to Loaded HQ. Obviously, we spoke for a while about coming on the show, and I'm really glad to get you on so you can talk to myself and the boys. But look, just before we get into lots and lots of Newcastle talk, there's a lot going on at our club at the moment. You all know that just as much as there is. But just a little bit of background about yourself for anyone that hasn't sort of met you or knows your stuff.
Yeah, I've recently started at the Shields Gazette. November last year, started covering Newcastle. I'm a Newcastle fan. Worked at the club previously in the 15-16 season as an intern. The season was Steve McLaren and Rafa. Newcastle went down that season. So when I got asked to do this job, November, Newcastle without a win, I was like, oh, I might be cursed here a little bit. Thankfully, things have turned around. And yeah, 15-16 season was an interesting one because I was caught on camera when Craig Hope had a go at Steve McLaren. And there's a sort of young-faced me, teenager, just looking up, sat on my hands, not knowing what to do. So it was the 6th anniversary of that a couple of weeks ago, and I get sent it all the time, and I was just, God's sake. Me and Craig, funny enough, spoke about it last week as well. But yeah, since then, I've worked at Gateshead Football Club, covered Hartlepool for the Hartlepool Mail for a couple of seasons, and now covering Newcastle Club, I support. So I couldn't be happier, really.
I was going to ask you, Dan, how young were you? Were you this young?
Hey! God, you've been stalking my
we do our research. We do our research here.
Wow.
That's the clue when Daz says he's doing the garden. What he really means is he's looking at other people's Facebook pages. Secret code.
Well, I didn't expect to see that tonight.
But it shows that you're a Newcastle United fan.
Exactly.
You've been supporting the club for a long time, and now what is that feeling? The club that you support, that you now get to sort of write about your club. Does it kind of mask your opinion on certain things that you write, or are you able to just write as a fan about what you think and how you feel? Has it changed anything?
Yeah, I think you have to be a little bit objective in what you write and things like that. And I think being a Newcastle fan helps, like I said before I came on the podcast to you guys, just with the general knowledge side of things, having watched the club over the years helps naturally. But it's different in terms of when you're at games, you have to be objective. You're in the press box, you can't celebrate goals, which I've been a season ticket holder at Newcastle. I'm used to getting up, going wild, hugging people when Newcastle score. Now it's very much right, tweet, right. It's very much job based, which I love. Ultimately, you're covering the club up and down the country, which is great, and that's something I've always wanted to do. It's just at the moment as well, I don't think you could pick a better time to support the club. I can't think of a period really, certainly since I've been old enough to work in the industry, where it's been so positive covering Newcastle. It's every week there's something good to talk about. Okay, we're on the back of 2 defeats, but 9 points clear of the relegation zone, takeover, things are looking up, and it's a great time to be associated with the club. I think we can all agree with that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
110%. Everyone is just so excited about our future. And look, we're going to get into this anyway at some point. But first, let's get down to it. I want to get your thoughts, Dom. Like, we've already had our opinions on last Thursday night away at Goodison Park. I was there watching the game. The boys are watching it on TV. We didn't get the win. We probably should have at least taken a point. I think everyone will probably agree with that around the table. But from your perspective, Dom, should we be worried as Newcastle United fans? There's been a lot of drama, a lot of people on social media panicking again. Panic stations have kind of kicked into gear. From your perspective, should we be worried about relegation again?
No, I think naturally as Newcastle fans, you fear the worst, and things like this have happened. I don't think Newcastle are completely safe yet. I think they do still need a couple more wins, but should we be worried, or should we be reacting in the way, like you say, some people have been reacting on Twitter or social media, where it's panic stations again? Definitely not. I think Everton game represented a missed opportunity to go 12 points clear of Everton, 12 points clear of the relegation zone with 9 games to go, and that would have pretty much meant survival was wrapped up, and even a draw would have probably been good enough. But after a grueling week on the road with 3 away games, the defeat coming so late in the day against 10 men was particularly disappointing. And like you say, Pete, I don't think Newcastle deserved to lose that game. There wasn't a lot of quality in it, but they did control it for large parts, and particularly in the first half, they sort of knocked the ball about quite well. It was just a case of they didn't really do enough in the final third to win it. And in the Premier League, as we find out time and time again, if you're not doing enough in the final third, you're always susceptible to getting beat. That's what happened, and that's probably one area we need to see Newcastle improve on in these final 9 games in order to sort of steer themselves clearly to survival.
No, I'd agree. I think it's something that as Newcastle fans tend to do at times, is that we've been on a fantastic run, 9 unbeaten, but yet we have a couple of bad results and it's panic stations all over again. Yeah, that is right. The world's falling apart. We're going to get relegated. Other teams are going to catch it, and it's just the kind of we need to take stock. for long, like you said, for long parts of that game, I thought we were the better team and we dominated possession, told us everything we needed to know. So we'll kick back into gear. I've got no doubt about that. But before we kind of get on to some of the real topics that I wanted to cover, there has been a little bit of sort of breaking news tonight with regards to what would certainly affect Newcastle maybe in the years to come is around FIFA fair play. And there has been some tweets come out about it. And I know Mart has made fantastic use of his time stuck in traffic this evening. Have a look at some of that information.
It was hands-free as well, by the way. Just I might add.
Of course. we had Tariq Panja that's tweeted out, putting his statement out that FIFA fair play is dead. UEFA to impose a 70% spend ratio, but no salary cap as part of financial control either. So it says the new sanctions are likely to points deduction and even possibility of being relegated from the Champions League. So from those details, Mark, you've kind of looked into this a little bit. What are your sort of thoughts initially from when this sort of broke?
I think if you do look at the thread, there's a couple of bits on it that stood out to me. I think if you're pretty much like Dom said, if you're a Newcastle fan reading it and you see, new caps coming in on spend and everything else, you're automatically going, here we go, we're being done again. Newcastle, now they've got money, we're going to get screwed over. There's a bit into it. So basically, my understanding of it is that every football club has a ratio of wage bill comparative to their income. So what this is suggesting, what they want to do, so effectively it's like a second piece of financial fair play whereby anybody that has more than a 70% wage spend versus their income will be capped on their spend. They will not be able to go past what their income spend is. So if you look at some of the clubs, so as an example, I think Daz has another, I think we have another slide there. So if you were to look at, say, somebody like Everton, they've got an 85% spend of their wages in comparison to their income. So from sponsorship, from other things that come into the club. So they would be capped at that 75%. So that 70%. So they would have very, very little to spend. And I think if you take a club like Everton, anybody that has looked at some of their summer spending and window spending over recent years will see they've spent a hell of a lot of money with not much result and very limited income coming in. On the other hand, if you look at Newcastle, we're at 57% of our income coming in versus wage ratio. So before you even got to that 71% or 70%, you would need to be dramatically increasing your net wage spend in comparison to any more income. So I would look at that from a point of Newcastle and go, A, we're currently below any kind of threshold that they're even talking about imposing. Secondly, that's without any brand new sponsorship or anything else coming into the club, which would add to that ratio and threshold, which is why I think on the initial tweets, you see the likes of PSG, Liverpool, Man United. Probably the big rich clubs will not really face some of those sanctions and rules because they're outside of their wage ratio. The income that they get from sponsorship is just absolutely massive. So it doesn't really hit. So I think that's the thing for me that I kind of got from it. I think the other thing, certainly reading down to more of the thread from Tariq, what I got from it is that this is yet to be considered or looking at being imposed in UK and in UK football. So at the minute, I think the discussions are in and around the Italian, French, and Spanish leagues. So that was my take on it. Obviously, as I said, Richie's not on tonight. He's normally the mathematics guru outside of Kieran Maguire. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong. Like I say, I was kind of on and off in traffic and a little bit when I got home. But that's my take on it.
Those traffic lights, man. Jeez, how long will you stick with those traffic lights?
There's a lot where I live, mate. That's all I'll say. But yeah, that's my take on it. So I think, as it says there, New York Times, look, the soccer's richest club will be able to step aside it. And the other important thing to it is there is no effect on salary cap. So unlike, say, American football or NHL, ice hockey, stuff like that has a salary cap to keep income to sponsorship ratio level, there's no salary cap in soccer or football. So it doesn't really affect. It'll hurt lower clubs is where it'll hurt. So if they did introduce it across the board throughout the UK, a lot of your Championship, League Ones, and so on that don't have high kind of income from sponsorship, but had a fairly high wage bill. Not to mention our neighbours down the road in Sunderland, but those kind of clubs would struggle trying to get that net spend ratio out. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, it's a good take. Obviously, that news has just broke recently, so it's going to be a talking point for a lot of people. That is for sure. And you've made a number of points. Is that one of the things that people wanted, and I think this is why Harry Panges maybe tweeted this out, in slight frustration, in that people wanted actually to have a salary cap in there. They wanted to stop those bigger teams being able to spend higher amounts of money.
Exactly, because they know the sponsorship income will outdo and keep them under that 70%. So it's a bit nonsensical, really. It's going to affect clubs that really need the sponsorship, and the richer clubs, so your PSGs, Madrids, Barças, Newcastle at some point, Chelsea, and the rest will sidestep it. So,
and we have to. You mentioned Kieran Maguire. We have to thank Kieran Maguire because some of this information is based on him. He obviously tweeted out the initial tweet about the figures for 2019, which is the figures that we showed you just a second ago. And he feels that it's going to benefit the top six clubs. However, he does say if it was wages and amortization, then it becomes more challenging for certain clubs and would involve significant costs. So here is the list. If it was wage amortization in there, you look at certain clubs. You look at Chelsea, for example, then start to move up the list and start to become affected by that. Newcastle in itself are still lower in the list, although they move up to 79%, are still one of the lowest within any of the Premier League clubs. But what you notice there, and we've talked about it on previous shows as well as away days, is that Everton, Leicester, Southampton, Palace are all bang at the top of that list. They're all spending sort of beyond in terms of their wages and amortization.
Exactly. And that's a massive jump for Everton to go from 85% that they would currently stand at to 136. Effectively means they can spend nothing.
Yeah. And look, I mean, Dominic, you'll probably be aware of this yourself, in that Everton are in financial difficulty at the moment because they've barely spent a penny this year anyway. So, even more so, that's going to put them in a real difficult position in maybe the next few years, and certainly going to be in their mind when they consider spending maybe going into the summer.
Yeah, definitely. That's where it could potentially hurt the clubs. The likes of Everton, West Ham, arguably Villa. There wasn't any data for Villa, but those clubs pushing to try and be in the next bracket, punching above the weight, if you like, and that's where it's going to hurt those clubs potentially if these new rules do come in. But from a Newcastle side of things, it does seem there's a bit of wiggle room, and I think we can all agree there's been so much wasted potential on the commercial front under Mike Ashley. So that has the potential to really grow. And with that, Newcastle, the wiggle room becomes greater to spend more money and on players, on wages, things like that. So it sounds like bad news, but we'll see how it works in practice, because I don't think it's as daunting as it first seems, as Martin suggested.
Yeah, certainly not for us anyway. That's where we're at. So, look, we wanted to bring that news to you. It was broken earlier on today. We did get a tweet out from Lee Errington to Loaded to say, look, this has happened. Are you going to discuss it? Of course we are. We discuss all topics. and all elements of what will affect Newcastle United. It's as simple as that. Right. Moving on. There is a topic of conversation that is big at Newcastle at the moment. No, it's not how much we're going to spend in the summer. We will get to that in a second. Alan Saint-Maximin. So, Alan Saint-Maximin has come back and played a bit part in the last couple of games. There has been some criticism with regards to Alan Saint-Maximin and his performances. Certainly with regards to him coming back, after his injury and then his illness. There's been lots and lots of talk about Alan Saint-Maximin. From your perspective, and I'll come to you first, Dom, do you feel, first off, have you seen the criticism on social media about Alan Saint-Maximin? And if you have, do you feel that based on what you've seen recently, it's justified that he's getting this criticism?
Yeah, I've seen some of the criticism. You hear it sometimes at the matches as well. I don't think it's justified. I think it's well wide of the mark. I can understand why someone just on face value is criticising Alan Saint-Maximin for one particular action in a game, but to call out his sort of general place at Newcastle United, I think is ridiculous. I think he's a player who 5 goals, 3 assists this season, contributed more goals than any Newcastle player. He does things that not just any other Newcastle player can do, but any player in the Premier League can do. He's a box office player when he's fit and firing. It's just that consistency and I guess fitness issue there at the moment. But that's what you're going to get with him. Like, he's a player that if he was consistent, if he was able to produce the type of performances like he did against Everton a month ago, then he wouldn't be playing for Newcastle United. He'd be among the best players in the world because some of the things he can do are well in that world-class bracket. But obviously it comes with a caveat of he is a bit inconsistent. Out of possession, there's room for improvement, which, to be fair to him, I think he has improved since Eddie Howe's come in. If he was a bit more reliable and a bit less frustrating, he'd probably be among the best wingers in the world. But he is just 25. He's getting into that stage where in a couple of years' time he needs to be where he should be at his peak. He should be at his full potential, if you like. And you can see what he needs to do to reach that. It's just a matter of getting down and dirty and putting in the graft needed to do that. Because the criticism, going back to that, I think Eddie Howe said after the Everton game, he trained twice in 4 weeks fully. He trained twice fully in the space of 4 weeks, and he played 3 times as a substitute in that time. So he'd literally played more as a substitute than he trained fully. So it's like you could maybe do that if you're having a kick about with your friends or playing 5-a-side on a Thursday night, something like that. You can't do that in the Premier League and expect to perform at the top level. So the fact he's even still playing despite training so little shows how important he is to the side. And while I think he's frustrating and do agree with some fans who are a bit more constructive in the criticism, I just don't think calling him out in the way some have it is sensible or correct, really. And I can see why he sort of took a dig back at a few fans on social media with what he tweeted in reference to some having short memories.
Yeah, definitely. And look, Mark, I'm going to come to you in that, there's been certain opinions on social media with regards to Alan Saint-Maximin. Lots and lots of fans have had their opinions on it, and they're more than entitled to their opinion on Alan Saint-Maximin. But there's been some questions about, the team have been more effective without him and been more balanced, maybe as a team when they're in sort of tactical formation. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that we've been better without Alan Saint-Maximin, or do you think we still need, as Dom said, that little bit of star quality in there to make the difference?
I have to be careful what I say because otherwise my Twitter will explode if I say something bad. I think it's a bit of both, if I'm fair. I think for me in the Everton game, kind of coming on as the impact sub, I didn't think it really worked. That was me. Now listen, I take Dom's point about the training and 3 games and getting that up. But I think as a club and as a team, and listening to the ownership, and Eddie Howe, he is the talisman that they want to build a lot of the team around. Yeah. And I think absolutely, listen, he's a player that, he's like your Ginolas. He and Espriits, he gets on, he's mercurial, he does his thing, he's electrifying when he wants to be. Yeah. And I think that, and we've said this before on our show, that's great when you've got that solid back 4 or 5, and you've got 2 wingers or 2 wing backs that are supporting each other and 2 wingers that are supporting each other. And sometimes there's a disconnect between him and that wing back. So we do sometimes get exposed. So for me, he brings everything in the game going forward that you want to see. I've been critical of him start of the season. I said I wanted just to see him improve in the final third. I thought some of his choice making was poor. And he has, I think, to be fair to him, he has worked on that. You can see that the head comes up a bit more. He lays the ball off a bit more. He's not trying to go around 2 or 3 defenders at the wrong time, which he has been guilty of doing. But I think it's probably the biggest thing with him, I think, is, and maybe Dom and Noel going to the games, I think it's just his fitness. I think if we can get his fitness right, and we can get the fitness levels up there, that he's able to get back and forth in that transition between attack and even bolstering the midfield, to be fair, I think, he'd be the player that you want. So I think for me, get the fitness up. And I think, certainly looking at the social media piece, with the shirt off and the sweating and everything else, it looks like he's putting in a massive effort to get that fitness levels up there and prove a few people wrong with the whole beast comment and stuff. So I hope the lad does listen. You want to build, you want players like that. Like, we want to be the best. So you want ASM to be there. But I would also go on the opposite side of that and go, but also no one player can be bigger than the team or the club for me.
No, I think that's the point. But we're going to need players like this to build and develop. The top teams have players like Alan St-Maximin that are world beaters that make the difference in game, that can win a game on their own. You look at the top teams across Europe; they've all got a player like that. That have got the capable of just making that little bit of difference, that little bit of gold dust that wins a game or makes something special happen. But guys, and I'll come to you. There's been questions, genuine questions about Alan St-Maximin, and that they would sell Alan St-Maximin in the summer to maybe get in someone else that maybe does track back a little bit more, that does work harder for the team. But do we need that? Do we need someone that's going to work harder for the team, or do we need someone that's going to make a difference? And in your opinion, do we stick or twist? Do we stick with him, or do we twist and move him on?
Good question, Pete. For me, it's the same kind of question I had on Almiron. And I said then, let's give him to the end of the season and see what we do with him. I've made my mind up already. It's time to ship Almiron on in the summer. So for ASM, I'm going to give him from now until the end of the season. Okay, I know he's our star player, he's our flair player. And yes, I want to keep him. But if it's a thing that, as Martin said, no one player is bigger than the team. It's a team effort. And if he isn't tracking back, then you have to consider your options. Okay, is he going to be happy to be a bit part player? And we do bring someone else in because we can afford that kind of an approach as well now. But I want to see what he comes back with, see how he performs over the next in the run in, and make a decision then. I would like to keep him, but if it's still the same kind of inconsistency between now and the end of the season, then all bets are off. Let's see what Eddie Howe I trust, actually.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. In Eddie Howe, I trust. And you know what? I think Eddie Howe really likes Alan St-Maximin. I really think that Eddie Howe sees the benefit of having St-Maximin in his team for the vision that how he sees Newcastle United going. This picture might not say too much to some people, but it says that Eddie Howe is taking the time to spend with Alan St-Maximin, to talk to him, to talk about tactics. It's one of the things that Eddie Howe's talked about before. Alan St-Maximin's talked about it before. They do spend a lot of time together. There's just been this question mark about Alan St-Maximin and Eddie Howe not necessarily getting on. I don't believe that. I believe they've got.
I don't believe that either.
I think they've got a great relationship, in fact, and I think that Eddie Howe sees the quality in Alan St-Maximin and wants to be the manager that brings out the absolute best in Alan St-Maximin. He's 25 years old. Dom made an absolute spot-on point. The guy's trained 2 or 3 times in the last 4 weeks. He had a difficult calf injury in the Aston Villa game. He then came back after like one training session and played 35 minutes. Like, that doesn't normally happen. And to be fair, he played okay in his first game. He was creating counter-attacks. He was pushing us up the pitch. He was doing things that he would normally do. Maybe not fitness-wise, he was great, but he was certainly doing the things that we want him to do at Newcastle United. Is Alan St-Maximin an impact sub? No. Not one is he an impact sub. He's not that type of player. Only certain players can be impact subs. He is definitely not one of them. He needs to be playing every minute of every game. He either starts or he doesn't play at all. Because Alan St-Maximin coming off the bench is not going to give you the same as what he would if he starts the game. He needs to warm up into the game. He needs 15, 20 minutes sometimes to get going, particularly if he's not played very often. I think we're going to see an Alan St-Maximin coming back all guns blazing, fit and firing. If anyone's seen his Instagram over the last couple of days, particularly the one I think it was maybe yesterday or maybe even this morning, when he's running on the treadmill, he's pounding the treadmill, and then he takes a picture of him coming off the treadmill, dripping with sweat, and he's letting us fans know that he's working hard to be back in the best possible Alan St-Maximin he can be. And I'm really, really intrigued to see how he influences the game. Do I think he's going to start Tottenham? Well, in fact, you know what? I'll ask you guys. Do you think, and I'll start with you, Dom, do you think Alan St-Maximin will be in the starting lineup come next Sunday when we travel to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
I think if he's fully fit, he should start. Do I think he will start? No. I think Eddie Howe will probably stick with the front 3 that started the last few games with Murphy, Fraser and Chris Wood. But yeah, I think if he's fully fit and he can prove that while they're in Dubai, then for me, he should start, because he's the type of player who will cause Tottenham problems, whether he's absolutely fully fit and on it or not.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Daz, Mark, your opinions? Is he going to start against Spurs from your perspective?
I think he'll start. If he's fully fit, yeah, he'll start.
Daz and Mark, sorry.
I don't think he will. I think Eddie Howe will go with the same lineup. I think the interesting one for me will be probably more around the midfield. Will it be Willock, Bruno, and Joe Linton, or will it be Shelvey back in, Bruno dropping back? I think that's the more interesting one for me. I think the ASM one for me, I think he's a 60-minute player from the start, and that's it. He's not a 30-minute player from 60 or 70 minutes onwards. That will be my take on it. And I think if you look at Eddie Howe, he's trying to get Newcastle to play more tactically, to be able to, and this is one of the things we said on one of the shows a while back when Eddie Howe came. He likes to be able to change up the system tactically on the park without necessarily having to make the substitutes. And I think that's sometimes where he has a problem with St-Maximin, because he's on the pitch for that 60. He wants to change it up, but he has to then make substitutes because he knows that St-Maximin can't work in the system he wants to go to. So it's how you balance that. Ideally for me, you want ASM to come on, and I know it probably sounds a little bit mad, but you kind of want him to come on in a bit of just a free roll, really. You don't want him to come into something really tactical. You want to just bring him on and go, right, go do your fucking thing. So for me, it's getting that balance again. But I think the lineup will be as was against Everton, and I think it should be, to be fair, because I think they need to go out and prove something because they weren't great.
Yeah, look, I think he's going to start. I just think he, on his day, Alan St-Maximin is, and this might be controversial to some fans, Alan St-Maximin is our best player at Newcastle United, in my opinion. And, you know, with 2 weeks under his belt of getting fitness, regularly training with Eddie Howe and the boys, I think he'll be fit and raring to go. And I just don't believe that you can keep a player like Alan St-Maximin when fit and when training regularly on the bench. I think he's a player that could really open up the game against Tottenham. Tottenham that defensively aren't great, and he could expose that on the left-hand side, going up against, I think it's Emerson Royale, who's not a good fullback at all at Tottenham. Their big money signing in the summer is not a good player, and I think he could get a lot of joy down that side and create some problems for us, for Tottenham certainly. So I'm gonna kind of put my neck out and say that he'll start, and it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a goal. And you know, all power to him. But I do believe that he will have massive influence between now and the end of the season. That's for sure. But look, there are other players at talk at the moment because we had some fantastic positive news with regards to Newcastle United and players potentially returning. First of all, we had the pictures coming in today of Callum Wilson training in Dubai, running, as it seems, on hard ground, so with his trainers, not yet on the grass, but he's running. He's up and running with the training staff, looking very, very comfortable, looking happy to be out and amongst things with the boys, and he, at times with a ball at his feet. Massive positivity with regards to having Callum Wilson back. We have missed him. He's not played this calendar year yet, in terms of 2022. And look, we know he's a fantastic striker. We know that he's better than Chris Wood, and we know that he offers some more. But from your point of view, Dom, there's been a lot of talk about, certainly today, that not only is he back in training, but there's a potential that he could be back as early as Crystal Palace. I don't know what you've heard from your perspective, but is that a possibility to you? Is that what you've heard?
Heard the Crystal Palace Norwich game. Heard the Norwich game was the main one, but then Crystal Palace has obviously been rescheduled, so maybe that's now being viewed as a potential one, and that would make sense. The type of injury he's had has been a serious injury. He's required surgery. He's been out for a while, obviously. So it's Eddie Howe said he's going to have to be careful with him, given his history with injury, given the nature of the injury. It's one of them. So whether he'll be back starting, I'd be very surprised, or whether he'll be just on the bench for that Palace game or that Norwich game, even then would be a huge boost for Newcastle going into the final few games of the season, which is a very tough run of fixtures. Having Callum Wilson back, potentially Kieran Trippier too, who I'm sure we'll get on to, those two will be a huge boost. But like we said, when Callum Wilson first got injured in that Manchester United game just before the new year, we're expecting maybe a couple months out, and it's sort of extended a little bit. But now he's back out, like you say, not on the grass yet, but out running, jogging, working in the gym, things like that. That's positive, just to have him back involved training with the group, because he's been out in Dubai previously, down south. To have him back training with the squad, albeit in light training, is really important for him mentally and for the group as a whole. And hopefully we'll see him back within the next month or so.
Definitely. Mark, there's been, obviously, we've talked about Callum Wilson. We've seen the picture, so visibly seeing him training is no doubt a massive boost to all Newcastle fans. And you see the comments coming off the Newcastle Twitter handle, with massive possibility. Positivity. Get my words out. It's been a long day. but there's been nothing of Trippier. We know that Trippier's travelled. We know that Trippier is on the road to recovery, and even, Eddie Howe talked about him being on schedule, but there's been no pictures of him at all. From your perspective, is that the case that, he may be behind schedule and they're trying to play it down a little bit? Or do you think maybe he could be ahead of schedule and they want it to be a little bit of a surprise that he makes that return into the team? What are your thoughts on the Trippier situation? Because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we try not to get into too much, but I did send you, I sent you a couple of DMs last night. One was about some potential signings for the summer, because I got a little bit of inside info. But I've heard that Trippier is closer to a return than is expected. So I think there's a little bit of kidology there. Now, Dom may shut me down and go, absolutely not, that's a load of bollocks. And he's still on crutches and everything else. But from a couple of little bits that I was given, I have heard that he's making a much better recovery than expected, and will be hopefully returning quicker than was expected. Now, where he stands in the whole training regime and everything else, I don't know. I don't know what the expected date was, but certainly from little snippets that I've had, he is ahead of schedule, is what I've heard.
Oh. Well, that would be an absolute treat, because we have certainly missed Kieran Trippier. The way he changed our team around, just by his influence and his leadership on the pitch, was fantastic to see. It was such a shame that he got that injury and he went off, obviously scoring a fantastic free kick that he scored with a broken toe or broken foot at that particular time. But it just shows the measure of the man, that he didn't let it affect him, still put the ball in the net, still wanted to do his best for the team, and still being a part of match days, even on crutches. Interesting one. 100% with regards to Trippier, but I'm going to kind of reverse back to Callum Wilson with you, Daz, in that obviously there's been a lot of talk about Chris Wood. There's been some criticism that he's not scored enough goals, he's not done enough on the pitch. There are some fans on some sections that are saying, he's doing a job for the team. He's winning flick-ons, he's winning the aerial duels, he's holding up the play, he's a focal point for our team, which allows us to build attacks. There's been a lot of questions to and fro him. So, my question to you, Daz, is do we do a straight swap when Wilson's back in and fully fit for Wilson for Wood? Or can you see them maybe partnering up together and maybe tweaking the formation and then playing as a front two? Something that Chris Wood has been used to at Burnley with Ashley Barnes. So what are your thoughts on that?
The answer there, Pete, depends on who we're playing. So if it comes to Palace and Norwich, why not? Why not go for the 4-4-2 and throw Wilson and Wood up there? Wilson will definitely get out the knock-ons that Chris would provide. But if we're playing, let's say, Liverpool, Man City, and if the title race is going down to the wire, then we definitely only be playing with one striker, probably Wilson then at that stage. But I can't see there being many games that the two of them will play. If we are bottom half of the table opposition, or if we are home and hosed at that stage and we've got nothing to lose, then why not go for it? Or change it in the game and bring one of them on if we go behind or something like that. So I think it'll be rare enough we're going to see the two of them start between now and the end of the season, because there's not going to be many games left when Wilson is fully fit, and hopefully Wood is still fit by that stage as well. But it'll be interesting. And hopefully at that stage as well, it's kind of ties into what I said, I think it was one of the last shows, that I'd be looking to bring in two strikers in the summer, because we can't rely on Wilson. He'll break down again. And Wood, but he's good at the flick-ons and everything else, he's not good at putting the ball in the back of the net. He's not a clinical finisher. So I'd be looking at bringing in a big-name striker and an up-and-coming young talent in the summer. And getting rid of Gale, of course, and Miggy. So, but we can get on to that at another date.
Definitely a lot to discuss. But
clear out.
Dom, I'll come back to you. Obviously I asked Daz the question about Wood and Wilson. Do you think Eddie Howe is going to be really strict and stick to this kind of 4-3-3 formation that he's put together at the moment and has been getting results, or do you think he's going to try and find a way to kind of shoehorn in someone like Callum Wilson into the team to make sure that he's playing alongside Wood? He obviously spent a lot of money on Chris Wood, 25 million. Is he just going to kind of discard him and move him out the team to replace him with Callum Wilson, obviously after he's had a game or two and he's back up to full fitness? Or do you think there could be an opportunity that he plays together?
It could be an opportunity, but I think the way Eddie Howe works, he sticks with whatever's best for the team. Like Daz says, if they're playing a big team and they've got to be defensive, like Chelsea, for example, where they went 5 at the back, in those type of games, then maybe you mix it up slightly. Obviously, you don't want to play two up front against them, but if you're playing certain level of opposition, or whether it be later in the game, you introduce Callum Wilson or Chris Wood from the bench, then fair enough. But looking at Newcastle and the success they've had over the past couple of months, playing 4 at the back, playing that midfield 3, I can't see Eddie Howe wanting to break that up. If you like, you look at the form of even Bruno since he's came in, he's made an impact. Then Joe Linton, John Joe Shelby, Joe Willock, all in top form. And whether you're going to risk dispersing that, making a player unhappy for the sake of keeping Chris Wood or Callum Wilson happy, whoever he decides to play up front, I think is possibly an unnecessary risk. But do I think he'll just discard Chris Wood as soon as Callum Wilson comes back? Absolutely not. I think Chris Wood still has an important role to play in the team, whether it be as an impact sub, because the type of player he is, big physical frame, you can go a different route with him. And obviously Callum Wilson's fitness issues are well documented as well, so you don't want to be reliant solely on him as well. So I think both players have an important role to play, but do I see Newcastle playing 2 up front on a regular basis? No, unfortunately not.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think, I think for all his criticism, I think Chris Wood's done a good job. In my personal opinion, the only game that I can say that I don't think Chris Wood has maybe done as much as he could have is actually surprisingly the Chelsea game. I was a little bit disappointed with him in the first half. Didn't hold on to the ball as well. His first touch wasn't there. For a number of times when the ball was played into him, but you wouldn't have known it because we played so well as a team. You wouldn't have known that it wasn't obvious that he was making those little mistakes. But I kept an eye on, because I like to keep an eye on certain players during games. I kept an eye on Chris Wood, and he didn't hold up the ball the way he could have. But there's been a number of other games where I think he's been fantastic as that focal point. He's really held the ball up well. The aerial duels, the battles, the wind-ups, if you believe it. If you believe it, at the West Ham game with Zuma. If you believe it, if it's true or not, we'll never know. But yeah, I do think he's been sort of a really, really important and necessary signing for us in January. And look, Mark, I know yourself and Paul Oxley, you kind of beated the drum way before we even signed Chris Wood to say Chris Wood should be a player that we come in and purchase. And I know that you've been pleased with the job that he's done since he's come into the team.
I think, if you go back to Eddie Howe, I would think that Eddie Howe values Chris Wood in that team as much as he would a Callum Wilson. I think that's as good a job as he's done. And I know there'll be people in the chat and people on Twitter go, sure, he's shite, he's not scoring goals. He scored 1 goal, doesn't he? But like you said, you watched him for the Chelsea game. I watched him during the Everton game. We watched him during the West Ham game. He's given us so much more ability to get out of defence better, to hold up play, to bring people in from midfield, to play a long ball and hoof it when we needed to, but actually be able to get on the end of it. And the one criticism I've had has been who either plays around him or plays off him, because he wins so much aerial ball that I've actually found it a little bit weird that we haven't put anybody really off the side of him, just playing as like a really close 10, be it a Fraser. I know you've got to kind of maybe mix the midfield up a bit. I know Willock is doing it, but I just have this weird kind of thing that I think if you played Chris Wood with Fraser just off him, which allows you the whole thing to go Murphy and ASM and whichever way you wanted to go, I think we'd actually probably get a few more goals in that team, because I think the Fraser would maybe read it a bit better than Joe Willock does, timing-wise, and just kind of where to be, because he's played that similar kind of role for Scotland. So I would have been interested to see that mix. But me and Paul Oxley, we were banging the drum, as you said, for months about Chris Wood, saying he's exactly the type of player you want, low-key, but will battle and graft his backside off of that team. And I think he's done that. So 1 goal, but am I bothered he's not got more? Absolutely not. I think he's been outstanding since we signed him.
Martin, question for you. Were you expecting him, because I was, to score more goals?
Was I expecting him to score more goals? Early on, Daz, the answer will be no, because I didn't think we were set up to service Chris Wood. If you look at the goal, the 1 goal that he scored,
Shelvey,
was Shelvey with a ball that was fairly enough dinked in. But if you look at the goals that Chris Wood scored for Burnley, look at the goals he scores for New Zealand. He got a hat trick there the other night, I think it was. Took him. He's the leading goal scorer for New Zealand now. They're always whipped balls into the box, and he's either flicking on or he's getting a lump head to it. And I don't think we've played to that strength. We haven't. Certainly from the start when we signed him, we haven't. We've been playing through the middle and trying to run off him. But that will be my point. We've not had the right person running off him. So I think if we'd have changed that up, and that's why I said I think Fraser would be better suited, in my opinion. I don't think it's an ASM. I think Eddie Howe tried to play that a little bit, Pete. I think a few games back, I think ASM was a bit closer to him. Yeah. And that didn't work. And we were calling him out going, Jesus Christ, he's winning every knock on here and ASM's not even going past him. So for me, I think Fraser, I just think Fraser will be better equipped to be around him. I think the chain of thought is a little bit quicker, maybe than that. And then maybe Willock coming through or a Joe Linton off the back of that. But yeah, no, look, he's a gutsy player. He sticks his head in where it's needed. But to physically get him the goals, it's a different type of ball in. It's whipped crosses and in from the side for me. So we're not going to play like that. He's not going to get you the goals, but he's brought a whole heap to that team that we've lacked. So good on him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that, and there's been a lot of performances I've enjoyed. Like I say, it was a Chelsea one that for me was the only one that really stands out where I feel like we didn't play as well. But we're all about opinions. Terraces S doesn't necessarily agree. He's got that opinion on there. Murphy and Chris Wood always operate at less than 60%.
I don't agree with that. Sorry, mate, you're wrong.
I knew that you wouldn't agree with that, Mark. Dom,
absolutely not.
Do you agree with that? With in particular, Chris Wood, but also Murphy.
Murphy it gives as good as he's got. Does he lack in quality sometimes? Yes, absolutely. But he always runs, always works hard. He's one of those players, almost the opposite of St. Maximin, if you like. He will get back. He will track back for you. Does he always have the quality to beat his man? He is inconsistent in that regard. But Chris Wood, I agree with Martin to a degree. I think, should he have scored more goals? Yes, because he scored a good goal against Southampton, but he's had some big chances to score more goals, including against Everton last week. And probably should have 2 or 3 more goals than he does. But I completely agree with what he brings to the side in terms of Newcastle liking to play that high press under Eddie Howe, and he just keeps oppositions camped within their own half, allows Newcastle to get up the pitch. And with the pace and the sort of physicality and tenacity of players like Ryan Fraser, Joe Linton coming through the midfield, that's benefited Newcastle to no end. And even when he wins a header and it maybe doesn't necessarily go to a teammate, it's maybe going out for a throw-in, so an opposition have a throw-in deep in their own half. Things like that, things that people probably don't even realise is a positive thing, because ultimately he's losing possession, actually working wonders for Newcastle, I think. And in that regard, I think Chris Wood's been a very shrewd signing, even though 25 million for a 30-year-old is a lot of money even in today's market.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. Maybe not to Newcastle anymore, but
I think the important thing we're all missing here is that 25 million. If he keeps us in the Premier League with the work that he's done with only one goal this season, it's worth way more than 25 million. So for that point, I'd say, you got to look at it that way for me.
It's worth Newcastle's future, effectively.
Absolutely.
Because it can accelerate our club.
Exactly. Because 13 games ago we were sat nigh on bottom of the Premier League with 10 points. So you're
absolutely right.
But
not everyone agrees. Neil Calvert, totally agree with Martin. He does all the ugly stuff, running channels, and sometimes our best defender when defending corners. He does clear a hell of a lot of corners and whip balls into the box from deep free kicks. Along with Joe Linton, in fact, they always seem to be, it's either one or the other that clears the ball. Not actually Dan Burn, or not actually Fabian Schär or Jamal Lascelles. It always seems to be one of those two that gets on the end of it and whips it out into in and out of the box, so we can we can regroup. So
it will be interesting to see some of his defensive stats.
Definitely, and hopefully our
Stato.
Our
Get on it.
Stato, Stato, Keith Roll will be in the chat, and maybe he's cooking up something as we speak.
But maybe next season, if we bring in those two strikers I'm talking about, that Eddie Howe can convert him into a centre back. There's something for you. No, not really.
Can't see that happening, Daz.
Who knows?
John Linton. I'm giving John Linton as an example.
Yeah, too far, but maybe in Eddie Howe we trust.
In Eddie Howe we trust. How?
Right. One talking point. We've got so many questions in the chat. Thank you for all your questions. We're going to come to Dom with all those questions in a second. But look, the table reads this at this moment in time. So Newcastle United 14th, 31 points. You've obviously got Everton on 25 after their very fortunate win against Newcastle United on Thursday. You've got Watford, Burnley, Norwich in the bottom three. Watford on 22 points. Burnley got a couple of games in hand on 21. At this point in time, Newcastle look relatively comfortable in this situation. However, I mentioned it the other day. I think we've got 5 very big fixtures coming up, and you can see them on screen. So we play Tottenham in our next game a week on Sunday, followed by the Friday night fixture with Wolves. Then the Sunday, Easter Sunday, should I say, game against Leicester. Wednesday against Palace straight afterwards, and then accumulates with the game away at Carrow Road against Norwich. From your perspective, guys, is this, and I'll come to you, Dom, with this question, is that set of fixtures critical for Newcastle United's season in staying in the league?
Yeah, I think it is, because you look at the fixtures that follow that, and it's basically the top 4 or 5 teams in the league plus Burnley. So you've got to think Newcastle will do enough, or will hopefully do enough, to be safe in those 5 games. You look at Tottenham; it's a tough game down there, but given the way Newcastle have been playing recently, the way they sort of took the game to Chelsea, okay, they didn't get a result. You wouldn't write off Newcastle's chances of getting a result down at Tottenham. Hopefully they can recapture the sort of form they showed against Chelsea and against Southampton in the recent away games, and just avoid those silly errors. But I think those 3 home games in particular, the Wolves, Leicester, Palace, 3 games at St James's Park in the space of 12 days, that's a massive one, where Newcastle, I think they've only lost 1 game in the Premier League under Eddie Howe, which was the Man City game. So you're looking at those games thinking, if you can get a result in each of those 3 games, that should be enough to keep Newcastle in the Premier League, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think some great points in there. That's for sure, Dom. And I find it hard to disagree with that. But look, Mark, in your opinion, will we be safe by the time, will we be 100% comfortable, safe by the time we've finished our game away at Carrow Road against Norwich. What's your opinion on that?
I think we'll be safe before we meet Crystal Palace.
Oh, okay, interesting. So you're looking at potentially the next 3 fixtures then. Tottenham.
I think we get a draw. I think we get a draw at Tottenham.
Okay.
Joe Linton to score. There you go.
Oh.
I think we beat Wolves, and I think we get something off Leicester as well, because I think both of those teams are hit and miss. Spurs, it depends on which Spurs turns up. If Harry Kane and Son turn on their game, then we will maybe have a tougher game. If those two have an off day, then I think we could beat Spurs. And we've got a pretty good record, as Geordie Tune for Life says. We've actually not lost at the new stadium yet.
Yeah.
So I think before we get to Palace, I think out of those first 3 fixtures there, I think we can get, if not 2 wins and a draw, but certainly I think we get a win and 2 draws out of that, and gives us the 5, which I think that's enough, because I think the other 3 that are in that bottom 3, I think are pretty much it at the minute. Although, as I have said on multiple shows, I would love to see Everton go down, but that's just me, because I don't like them. But anyway, that's just me. So I think before we get to Palace, I think it's done and dusted. I think we're okay. A win and a draw, I think, is enough.
Interesting. Confidence coming from Mark. 3 games in, he thinks we're going to get enough points that's going to pretty much
Eddie we trust.
Guarantee. Anyhow we trust. Daz, do you share that same confidence?
Well, usually at this time of the season, Martin has us wrote off and he's talking about the championship and it won't do us too bad and we'll come back stronger and blah, blah, blah. The takeover.
We were close for a while, Daz. We were close for a while.
But I think the first 3 it will be a draw. Spurs, Wolves and Leicester. And I think 2 wins from Palace and Norwich then. We're on 31 points, as I said before. Get to 38 and we're definitely home and hosed. But even if we did go pear-shaped, let's play out that scenario for a second. Throw up the other fixtures again, Pete, the next ones, the Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal ones. Yeah. So I wonder if Liverpool or City drop points off between now and then, the league could nearly potentially be done. If it's very tight, then these games will both they'll kill us, basically Liverpool and City. But
not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but more than not like under Bruce. But we'll give them a good game. But they'll still win. They'll still get the 3 points off us. But if the league is all over, and they're concentrating on European fixtures.
Still ongoing,
yeah. So then it becomes a different proposition. I think Arsenal will still be fighting for the Champions League spot at that stage. So that'll be a tough one for sure. So and then Burnley, I think, hopefully we don't have to worry about that. That's our time to try out Wood and Wilson together on a 4-4-2 or something like that. For next season, but yeah, I think we're going to be safe come at the end of the Norwich game. So I would line up with Martin, but not after the first 3.
Yeah, that Burnley game is where Chris Wood's next goal comes from.
You think it's going to take him that long to get his next goal?
You can just see Chris Wood scoring on that day to send Burnley down. You can see it coming a mile away.
Hopefully they're gone by then.
Yeah, if they're not already gone by then, that's a great point. And I think it'll be the way it's going at the moment. Obviously, Lee's got a fantastic win away at Wolves. And it looks like that if they're going to hang their hat on staying in the league, they're going to need to drag Everton down with them. And Everton have got some very, very difficult fixtures coming up in the
And Jimenez is missing, is he?
Jimenez is missing for the game at St. James's Park.
Which is massive.
It's massive. We had an interesting discussion about that because ourselves and Richie, we weren't sure whether he would, because normally 2 yellows, it is a 1-game suspension, but because he's already been sent off.
He's an accumulation, yeah.
It's an accumulation, so he misses the next 2 games.
Yeah.
So he will miss the game at St. James's Park. And he's just like Chris Wood, he's a massive focal point for Wolves in the way in which they play. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage without him during that period of time. And it can only be a plus for Newcastle going into that game, that's for sure. But look, I'm going to put it out to all of you and everyone else in the chat as well. How many points? We've talked about how many points you think we're going to get. but how many points do you think we require? How over those 5 games? How many points do you think we actually need to get over those course of those 5 games? So Dom, I'll start with you.
I think 4 points would probably be enough to rule out goal difference as well. I think 35 points would probably be enough. You look at Watford in 18th, 22 points. Are they realistically going to get another 13 points in the remaining 9 games, as well as the likes of Leeds, Brentford, Everton picking up enough points to surpass the 34-point mark? I'd be surprised. I think it will be a low total this year to stay in the Premier League, but we're still waiting on the likes of Watford, Everton, Burnley, Leeds even to put together a string of wins like Newcastle have. Whether they do that or not remains to be seen, but you tend to see teams in the relegation fight towards the back end of the season, at least one of them puts together a randomly good run of form that just sees them avoid it. So we'll wait and see, but I can't see the sort of 4 or 5 teams from 15th to 18th, 19th putting together runs that would see them pass the 34, 35 point mark. So I think another win and another draw would be enough.
Interesting. Mark, would you agree with that? 4 points over those next set of fixtures that we talked about would see us safe?
Yeah, I agree with Dom. I think a win and a draw puts it there. I think totals wise, I think 34 points keeps you in the league this season.
Right.
I think I agree with Dom. I think it'll be low enough. 33, 34 points will probably, in my book, would probably be the tally. I think for Newcastle, out of the remainder of the games, I think we've another good 10 points or more in us. So I think we could finish it, depending on other teams, but I think we could go certainly 11th or 12th and finish up that way, 40, 41 points maybe.
Oh, no, yeah, interesting. Daz, are you in the same mindset?
I think we need 7 more points to take us to 38. I just keep saying that 38 figure. I don't think we'll need it though. I do think of the teams. I think Leeds will get out of it. They're going to go on a bit of a run now with a new manager and a new approach. Everton hopefully they're still in the mix. In the mix with Burnley, they
have an awful run. I think out of a lot of the teams at the bottom, Everton's run over the next 7-8 games is horrendous.
Yeah,
I think they could really be in trouble.
So their next couple of games are West Ham away, Man United at home. I think they've got Chelsea to come. They've got Liverpool to play at Anfield. I don't know if they've got Man City, but they've got Arsenal. I think they've still got to play.
Yeah, I think they've got 5 out of the top 6, I think, or something like that anyway, or top 8, I think they have. So, yeah.
I think they might only have 1 or 2 teams. I think they've got to play. The only 2 teams that they've got outside of the top half of the table, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Watford away from home. At the Hawthorn, not the Hawthorns. I keep saying the Hawthorns. It's not the Hawthorns. Vicarage Road. I did that on away days, and I got hammered for it. So they go to Vicarage Road, and then they've got Brentford at home, who aren't too shabby at the moment. They've picked up a little bit of form again. So their 2 games in the bottom half of the table are not easy games, and you always seem to see when 2 teams are desperate for the points, what tends to happen? A draw. And at this point in time, if they've got all the other fixtures against the top teams that are all fighting for something and are all going to be all guns blazing to get those points to challenge for Europe or top 4 or even the title, they're going to need to win those other 2 games, just like they needed to win the Newcastle one. And I just think, I just don't rate Lampard personally, and I just he's not a manager that's going to get them out of the. Do
you know the other thing though, Pete? The thing for me with this Everton team, and I know we're diverting away from Newcastle that we obviously should be talking about, but to me they've got the same mentality and the same vibe as we did in 2009 when we went down, when we thought we were too big, and the players thought they were too big to get relegated. I think this Everton team have got exactly that same vibe of, sure, we won't go down to too big a club.
Yeah.
And they've got that same sinking feeling And you look at that. I mean, even when we went down 2009, that running we had then was nowhere as bad as the April that Everton have got.
Yeah.
And I think it's that mentality of we'll be ground. There's no way we're going down. It's that same vibe as 2009 for them, for me.
Spare thought for Richo in the chat, an Everton fan, but he's always popping up Richo, on our shows. But yeah, an Everton fan, and but yeah, he's agreeing with you, Martin.
I'm sorry, pal.
Look, we've been there. 2009, we've been there. I agree with you, and I actually thought it kind of reminded me of us in 2015-16 when we went down again, eventually under Rafa.
That was that first one for me where we thought it would never happen to us.
We had those star players, Owen, Martins, Viduka. We had, we had a top of the table strike force.
Yeah, and Shearer as manager as well in the last couple of games.
And we still didn't stay in the league. So, but I think you're absolutely right. I really do. They're kind of just. It's kind of then nose
sleepwalking to relegation is the word.
Sleepwalking, but the nose diving into relegation. They don't even realise that they're doing it. They don't realise that win on Thursday, in my opinion, papers over so many cracks in that team. And actually, the reality of Everton is what you then saw on Sunday when they went to Selhurst Park and got absolutely smashed by Crystal Palace, who are only mid-table. They're only a few points off us. And I just thought that told you everything you need to know about Everton. And I think that they will struggle. And just a quick round the table. Someone put it in the chat. Terraces S put he would prefer Burnley to survive over Everton. If you had a choice, Dom, if you had that magical ball and you could see in the future and you could decide maybe who went down out of the two teams, would you go Everton or Burnley?
Is this who I want to go down or who I think will go down?
Dom needs to be strategically placed here as a press man into.
Let's go with who do you think will go down?
I think Burnley will go down. I think Everton's game's in hand, albeit with a shocking run, and might just see them over the line. I'd prefer Everton to go down though. I think there's like we've alluded to, a bit of an arrogance about their team and a bit of a we'll be fine. And you watch them play. They did beat Newcastle, and did they deserve to win? Probably not. A game between two fairly bang average teams on the night, but you saw them at St James's Park the month prior. They are not a good team this season, and I think if a team deserves to go down, the table doesn't lie, but I think Everton are one of those teams, and I would like to see them go down based on what I've seen at least.
Yeah, that win for Everton Thursday still grinds on me even now, and it still winds me up because they were horrific. Sorry, Rico in the chat, but you guys were horrific on Thursday, and you still managed to get that win, and it still annoys me. But look, Mark, Daz, I'm going to come to you ruthlessly. Who do you want to stay up, Burnley or Everton?
I know Martin's going to say he wants Everton to go on. Look at Everton are the bigger team. Burnley aren't going to be. I suppose maybe I'm thinking in the mindset of a relegation battle next season. We won't have one of them. It doesn't really bother me. Just for sentimental value, then let Sean Dyche stay in the Premier League and send Everton down. Lampard. I wouldn't mind seeing Lampard get relegated. Go for that.
Definitely, Mark. Is it even a question?
Yeah, no, it's like asking me what do I want for Christmas. Look, like I said, I think Everton are sleepwalking. I think I don't like Pickford, so I'd love to see him go down just for a crack. But I'd also like to see Burnley in a weird way because I think Sean Dyche has rose and looked for so many seasons and got them out of it. Yeah. So if I could twist it on its head slightly, purely because of the lads we've had on away days, I'd like to see Everton and Burnley go down. I'd like the lads from Watford to survive.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like Dennis and I like some of the players. I think they play some decent ball. Now they've been chronic as well at times over the season. But yeah, if I could switch it up and if Watford could put a little run together and put Everton and Burnley down, oh man, that would be just like perfection.
You know what? I didn't even think of that scenario. I didn't think.
There you go.
You know what? I love Carlos and the boys from the Watford chat.
Exactly. So yeah,
That's your eyes.
I'm just keeping them sweet for next time they come on. So yeah, Watford to survive, Burnley and Everton to go down. There you go.
I agree. You know what? You completely changed my train of thought. I'm going to say something different, but yeah, I want them both gone. And yeah, I want the Watford boys to stay up. That's for sure. Right. Look, we've got a number of questions that have been accumulated over the chat, and massive thank you. I did say to Dom in advance there'd be questions from the chat because there always are, and we have a fantastic following and guys and girls that are always in the chat posting questions and wanting to know, from yourself, Dom, and obviously from the panel as well. So, Daz, fire away.
Okay, first one, I'm going to go for loaded royalty with the first question, and cut the queue and go to Liam Kennedy, friend of the show. You will know him as well, Dom. He asks, question for Dom even. I guess so. This must be a talking point between the two of you. Does he think Eddie Howe should get Dwight Gale on anytime soon? Don't hold back.
I should explain this, but yeah, Liam likes saying that. Get Dwight Gale on based on what a fan said behind him at the Newcastle game. Once Eddie Howe had already made 3 subs, said get Dwight Gale on. So Liam,
now, to be fair, he wasn't a blonde-haired lad with a Scouse accent by any chance, was he?
No, so Liam always says Newcastle, whatever situation, get Dwight Gale on. So no, I don't. I think hopefully Callum Wilson will be back in contention sooner rather than later, and it'll be a sort of straight fight for the striker position between him and Chris Wood. Dwight Gale, unfortunately, for all he's contributed to Newcastle over the years, particularly that championship season, is living on borrowed time at Newcastle. Probably would have left in January had Callum Wilson not picked up the injury he did. So, yeah, do I think Eddie Howe should get Dwight Gale on? No, unless it's absolutely necessary.
You know what? You know that saying is going to stick in the loaded chat now. It's going to be on there during games. Liam Kennedy is a great guy. We love him at Loaded, and big supporter of the channel. But that is brilliant. I'm gonna be sticking that in the chat now and again when we're playing matches. All 3 subs. As soon as the 3rd sub comes on, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Get Dwight Gale on. Love it.
When we asked for questions, Mike went a bit crazy and put 4 in a row. So first one was about any news on Dan Ashworth and sponsors.
From what I've heard, nothing new. Dan Ashworth, there was talk he might come in the end of the season, maybe even beyond that. There's a few things to iron out with Brighton, but I've heard nothing new other than what's been said already.
I tell you one thing: if he's on gardening leave, he must have a fucking massive garden. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Must be the biggest garden in Brighton. Yeah, he's helping Daz. Yeah.
The next one from Mike is any updates on the new training complex?
No, nothing that I've heard again. There's been Miles Starforth at the Shields Gazette did a piece today of the plans that there has been previously that could be revisited, but whether they are or not, it's very much at the sort of initial stages where it's just proposals being put forward to the club, nothing actually concrete in place at the moment. But what is clear based on Eddie Howe's comments today on the training complex that they are using in Dubai is it's a state-of-the-art facility, and Newcastle really has quite a bit of catching up to do. So a new training complex is an absolute must over in the sort of long term, the next sort of 5 years or so.
The one thing, I think the last thing that we had any sort of conversations around the training complex other than what Eddie Howe said today in his brief interview is that in George Culkin's piece in The Athletic that we did a show on with Chris Waff, Amanda and Mirdad talk about the fact that Amanda had been to Man City to check out their facilities, and she's been to other facilities as well. Some probably the likes of Leicester, maybe even the likes of Brighton. Who knows? But she's certainly been to Man City and had a look at what their offers, what they've got on offer. So it's clear that they're obviously doing their scouting to see what type of top level facility looks like. First and foremost, what it involves, what it entails, what needs to happen, what type of sort of landscape it needs to be, the amount of ground they're going to need to purchase. It looks like they're in that early phases, like you said, Dom. They're obviously, they've not got a definite decision on things, but they're doing their groundwork to make sure that when it's done, and it might take a good few years to get done, but when it gets done, it will be, without doubt, one of the best, if not the best, in the world. We can be absolutely assured of that. And they are doing things in the right way, just like they took their time on the manager, just like they took their time on putting their transfer list together for January. They're very sort of cool, calm, calculated in the decisions that they make. And I think, they're giving us little snippets here and there, but I think what you'll find is, and I think they alluded to this, in that what they're looking to do is build what they've currently got and make what they've currently got better, whilst they're planning to make and construct the best training facility that's available. So what you'll probably see is, in the summer, a real fantastic improvement, but by the time the players finish for the season against Burnley, up until the 1st of July, when they tend to come back for pre-season training, over that course of time, you probably see rapid changes in the training ground and the facilities there. They'll make massive changes and improve the area that they've got, with a view to then moving into a new facility in a few years' time.
Cool. Next, I've kind of whittled the questions down a bit. Good one here from Seb, who I remember Seb joined us before on the takeover night as well. Actually, Seb joined us. But Pablo Dybala is a free agent in the summer, not signing a new contract at Juventus. Could we get him to buy into our project, and would wages be a stumbling block?
I think wages could be a stumbling block. I think he's one of them where is he the right fit for Newcastle's sort of transfer strategy as it stands? I'm not sure he is. He's very much in a sort of bracket above where he's sort of, what is he, 28, 29 now. He's proven at the top level, but Newcastle were so in January, the likes of Bruno, these sort of raw talents, these emerging top players in Europe who in 4 or 5 years could be among the elite players in the world. That's, I think, what Newcastle will be looking at, players like him, or players like Kieran Trippier, who have established themselves at a top level, English, proven in the Premier League, who are safe bet. I think Dybala probably is just the wrong side of both, where he's just a little bit too old and a little bit too never played in the Premier League. So would it be a nice marquee signing? Potentially, yeah, but I just don't think he particularly fits with what Newcastle will be looking to do this summer, at least.
We'll follow that one up with one from Chris Hall, and he asks about Neymar. Hypothetical question, lads. If you had the chance to sign someone like Neymar for 150 million, would you? Dressing room unrest, wage structure, attitude, but revenue, shirt sales, attracting others. I know we did talk about this. Was the last one of the shows last weekend? I think it's Kamal brought it up, and it was mentioned in a few papers after that. But we gave our opinion at the time. But what do you think, Dom?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but no, not for me. I genuinely can't believe I'm saying no to Neymar. By the way,
can we quote you on that?
Look, is he a world-class player? Absolutely. Would he improve Newcastle? Absolutely. But like what I said about Dybala, but to a greater extent, it's just not in keeping with the ethos of what Newcastle are about. And it'll be a bit like a sort of Robinho signing at Man City, where it just didn't quite work the first season and they needed a couple more seasons to really sort of find the feet. But based on what we've seen from Newcastle so far, I like the transfer strategy they're working with. They're not trying to punch way above the weight. They're being sensible, they're being pragmatic about it, and getting players in who will fit into the team. The right characters being such an important thing. But I saw a picture doing the rounds the other day, Neymar's Instagram. There's only one bridge Neymar's taken a picture of and posted on Instagram, and that is the Tyne Bridge. So make of that what you will. But yeah, Neymar.
Photoshop, that's what I make of that.
Neymar, it's an interesting one. Would I like to see him in black and white at some point? Yeah, but in the summer, 150 million, as Chris says, amazingly no.
Cheers up. And that aligns with what we said the other day. And if you had said yes, we would have to kick you off the show. So yeah, your credibility is safe. Next one is from Lisa. Dom, if you could interview any NUFC player, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, I'd have to think about that. But off the top of my head, Shola Ameobi.
Okay. while cycling a bike, eating an apple.
Exactly. There's so much you could ask about Shola. You could ask about his crib, what his interior design is up to these days. There's a lot I'd want to talk about away from football with Shola about, and scoring at the new camp, even things like that, slaying the Mackham several times. He's just one of those cool players that I've always wanted to interview, and that's, like I say, that's off the top of my head. There's a few players who I'm sure are more interesting and probably less accessible than Shola, who, given a bit of time, probably come into my head. But just off the top of my head, he was a player who I knew wasn't quite up to scratch growing up, but I still loved him nonetheless. And I think he's a bit of a meme Newcastle player, like a cult hero, like you say. That all the different things away from scoring football, and the fact he actually managed to produce the goods more often than not against Newcastle's bitter rivals is mad, really, to me. And so yeah, Shola.
Good one.
Cool. If when we get Shola on the show, Dom, you can come and join us, and you can with us. There we go. We'll take one, maybe two more questions. Next one: any credence in the rumor about rotating the pitch in St James's Park to expand the capacity?
I don't think so. No, I think that's been touted for a couple of years as a way where it could potentially be a 70,000 seater stadium if they did rotate the pitch 90 degrees. But I think practically that's not really a viable option for Newcastle. I think the most viable option is looking at the Gallagher stand and Strawberry Place, the area behind that. Which could potentially be extended over the metro station and the car park, but that's another long-term thing. Are the owners looking to expand the stadium? Absolutely. Is it going to be a quick fix? No. And will they rotate the pitch? I can't see that happening. I don't think that's a viable option.
Cool. Last question, and because some of the other questions were around incomings and outgoings, but we are going to do a show once we know we're safe. We'll do a show about who we think should come and go, buy and sell in the summer and all that kind of stuff. But let's take Mike's last question about Calvin Phillips. The stock that Villa will look to go for him. Do you think we should go for him?
Yeah, absolutely. No brainer for me. I think English, still got age on his side, England international, one of those midfielders, just breaks the play up, gets in and amongst it. I think alongside someone like Bruno, that could be the future of Newcastle's midfield for the next 5 years, 10 years maybe, if all goes well. So he's one for me. I'd certainly look at if Newcastle are looking to bolster the midfield.
Cool. That's it for the questions. We'll leave the questions there. Thanks to everyone that put the questions into the chat, and thanks to Dom for answering. Back to you, Pete or Martin. Who would like to do the sponsors?
Questions.
Do them between us.
Yeah, why not? Do you want to flash them up, and we'll do a little bit of a talk?
Will I help you, Martin?
Any time, Daz. Go on, Pete. You can lead off.
Yeah, well, Black and White Army, and in addition, 1881 now. with Bronwyn's new sort of clothing line. So we'll hear more about that when Bronwyn comes and joins us. But Black and White Army, limited edition, at www.blackandwhitearmy.com. Lots and lots of gear. You see the hats, the tops, still available, still there to purchase. Get involved and support Bronwyn, who has been a massive support and a great sponsor to Loaded HQ. That is for sure.
All right.
Yeah, Shy Bairns, Simon, who was in the chat earlier on. So cheers for that, Simon. Shybairns.com. Get on the web. So Simon and the guys, Shy Bairns, they do a huge range of t-shirts, caps, sweatshirts, everything that Simon sells off the site. 10% goes towards mental health charities working with his partner, Work for Good. So get online. He does do some giveaways with us, as does Bronwyn. And we'll be doing some of those later, back end of the month and early month into April. But yeah, he does some really good stuff. So get on there. The club is really good. I got a really nice t-shirt from him there a few weeks back. So thanks for that. But yeah, thanks for that continued sponsorship. Shybairns.com.
I'm just laughing at the McDonald's and the Pepsi adverts behind you as well, Martin. We're getting new sponsors all the time. Well done.
Oh, yeah.
The last one, Pete.
Yeah. Feel free, McDonald's and Pepsi, by the way.
Yeah.
And there are other hamburger brands and caffeine-related cola drink brands out there.
We've also got Pins and Prints, our newest sponsor. So huge support to Loaded HQ. And look, they have some fantastic prints that they're putting together. You know, they've got the famous Papi Cisse goal. You had the Trippier goal before the free kick against Everton. I'm really intrigued about what they can put together, and I know they've got some really good ideas. You've got the cross kits. You've got Big Joe. You got Big Alan Shearer. You got John Joe Shelby.
Bruno one's coming out.
Yeah, the Bruno ones will be on his way.
Bruno back heel.
One out with I put the picture out with Long Robert 32 on the back. So yeah, I think they're really putting some fantastic stuff together. So if you haven't got a print from Pins and Print, get involved. I know there's been a number of purchases on the back of people seeing it promoted on Loaded. Get yourself involved there. Get over and support Pins and Prints. Fantastic sponsor of Loaded, and look, there'll be many more to come.
There is a promo code as well. I think it's Loaded 10. Is it? I think if you go
Loaded Mag. Yeah, here I'll
Loaded
put
Mag.
it scrolling at the bottom of the screen. There we go.
Yeah. There you go. So get on there. Use your code Loaded Mag at the end, and you'll get your discount from Pins and Prints.
And you know what? We should also tell people to do: subscribe to our channel. We always forget this bit. Down the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, if you're watching this back, you'll see a red button that says subscribe. Hit that button if you haven't done so already. That will it's free. You'll get you can turn on notifications to hear then about when our next shows will drop, because there's a few shows now that we have to put in the system and schedule the dates, but there's some big shows coming up, much like we've had tonight with Dom. So that's it from the sponsors and the subscriber message.
Definitely. And look, I just want to end the show by saying a fantastic debut for Dom. Massively appreciate him coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure to have you on. We'd love to have you back at some point, and I'm sure we'll have a chat, and we'll find another time to get you on and talk more things Newcastle United as we hopefully progress up the table and get those points that are going to secure our Premier League safety, and then we can really look about our future in with a lot of excitement. That's for sure. To end on that, we would love him to be one of our midfield additions. If Newcastle aren't looking at a player like Lucas Paqueta, then they're looking in the wrong direction, because he's a top talent and another Brazilian and a very good friend of Bruno. So
somebody put in that chat earlier on about info and everything else. So we will, as we close the show out, I will drop a little tidbit, which I will tell you that Paqueta is on a list that the club are looking at.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Very interesting. So yeah, it will definitely one to look out for. We're going to be talking all things transfers once that Premier League safety is confirmed. But until then, massive thank you to everyone in the chat. Another massive thank you to Dom for joining us for a really, really good show. Fantastic insight from yourself. Just before we sign off, where can we find you, Dom?
Shields Gazette website, shieldsgazette.com, or at Dom Scurr on Twitter. Twitter handle's just there. Yeah, that's it.
Mouth of the Time as well.
Stuff.
At Mouth of the Time pod as well. You'll find my stuff on there. Mouth of the Time podcast. All that's on the Shields Gazette, and I share it all on my Twitter account as well. So yeah, those three places. Yeah. Correct me already. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're following us, Mad Lot, get on there and give Dom a follow as well, and keep up to date with all the NUFC stuff, because he does put some really good stuff out there.
Definitely. But until then, guys and girls, you take care. We'll be back with more tomorrow with
night.
our good friend.
That's right.
The Geordie dentist will be back to talk all things Newcastle United from his perspective. So it doesn't stop there. More to come from Loaded HQ, and we will see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. You guys take care. Have a fantastic evening, and speak to you soon.
How?
Thanks,
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
See you later.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
How?